are going to begin here with what appears to be the largest abuse scandal to shake the American Catholic Church yet.
And the men of God who were responsible for them not only did nothing, they hid it all for decades.
The landmark report, compiled by a secret grand jury report, claimed children were abused for decades by men described as predator priests. Documents from the diocese's own secret archives form the backbone of the investigation, corroborating accounts of alleged sexual abuse and systemic church cover-up, mirroring a worldwide pattern where abusers are moved from parish to parish.
And the report says church leaders protected the priests in a cover-up that went all the way to the Vatican.
A systematic cover-up that included high-ranking church officials and allegedly went all the way to the Vatican.
This is the priest you say abused you.
Yes.
John Doherty was molested by his family priest for 2 years, beginning at age 10.
Is this report enough vindication, or are you fighting to change laws?
This report is just the beginning battle of the overall war.
And just last month, Cardinal Theodore McCarrick resigned. The former D.C. Archbishop was accused of sexually abusing minors and adults for decades.
We should emphasize that while the list of priests is long, we don't think we got them all. We feel certain that many victims never came forward, and that the diocese did not create written records every single time they heard something about abuse.
The alleged abuses date back to 1947 and were uncovered following a 2-year investigation.
I'll believe the bishops if they give us the opportunity to find the justice that we need.
An apology isn't enough for Sean Doherty and other victims who are calling on lawmakers to change the statute of limitations and force the Catholic Church to finally pay for its sins.
Predators in every diocese weaponized the Catholic faith and used it as a tool of their abuse.
The grand jury investigation goes back 70 years and identified predator priests in 6 Catholic dioceses across Pennsylvania.
Understand, Judy, this isn't a matter of interpretation back and forth. We not only relied on people testifying before our grand jury over a 2-year investigation, we relied on the church's own records, the church's own documents in what they called a secret archive.
This is the report, nearly 900 pages long. The former bishop there, Cardinal Donald Wuerl, spoke to us before the report was released.
I think the report is going to show that during my tenure, we acted very appropriately with many times the removal from ministry, totally and completely.
Did you ever move priests quietly to another?
That wasn't our process.
Because I did speak with a victim who said his priest that he alleges abused him was moved.
I can't speak to any particular case.
But according to the grand jury, in 1991, Wuerl reassigned an accused priest, Ernest Payon, to the Reno diocese. In 1995, he returned George Zerwas, who the report says was a member of a pedophile ring, to ministry. Wuerl even presided over Zerwas' funeral. He also approved monthly sustenance payments of up to $1,000 to Richard Zula, also a member of the pedophile ring after Zula's release from prison.
It's frankly shocking that the priests and the bishops and the monsignors and the cardinals knew about all this and weren't shocked and sought to cover it up.
In some cases, the perpetrators were even promoted. When you say the cover-up reached all the way to the Vatican, explain what you mean.
There were documents in the church's own secret archives where bishops notified the Vatican of the predator priests, notified them of their plans to pass them from place to place. And we have no proof that the Vatican did anything about it other than keep it quiet as well. More than 1,000 child victims over decades. There's no other way to sum it up other than saying that this is the most comprehensive report done into clergy sex abuse in the history of this country.
So we're saving the galaxy again? Who else is going to do it?
This morning, Hollywood heavy hitters showing their support for now fired Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn. It's been almost 2 weeks since Disney fired director James Gunn for those tweets.
Actors Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Bradley Cooper, and Vin Diesel joining fellow cast members asking Disney to reinstate Gunn. The stars signing a statement reading in part, "We cannot let this moment pass without expressing our love, support, and gratitude for James." Gunn was fired earlier this month when old tweets where he joked about child rape, AIDS, and the Holocaust resurfaced online. Disney calling them indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values. This isn't the first time Gunn has had to answer for his controversial comments online. In 2012, Gunn expressed regret, promising to change, but now he's apologizing once again. Roseanne calling out the situation on Twitter. "I'm disgusted to read all the support for James Gunn's pedophile jokes as the same people supported blacklisting me for a joke they didn't even understand."
Hope you're ready.
Guardians of the Galaxy has delivered big for Disney. The third installment was reportedly preparing to shoot this fall with Gunn working on the script. The future of Gunn and the galaxy now uncertain. I want to warn you about this next story because a Northern Virginia candidate running for Congress has some shocking, dangerous, and downright disturbing views about children and women. Nathan Larson is an accountant who lives in Fauquier County.
This is hard to read and certainly hard to hear. He admittedly thinks it's okay for adults to have sex with children. He even wants to make it legal. Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Peggy Fox is in Catlett, Virginia tonight, and she spoke to him.
Normally, we don't give people with abhorrent beliefs a platform in which to share those ideas. But this man is running for Congress, and as much as I personally hate to put this man on TV, we believe it's important for people to know why he's running for Congress. Nathan Larson told me he wants to, quote, restore liberty and make incest legal.
What about sexual relations with your own children?
Like, I would favor, like, legalizing incest.
Why is that?
Just because personal freedom.
What about the children's rights? Wouldn't that be rape to have sex with a child?
Well, like with girls, I mean, I just believe that it should be for fathers to make those decisions.
And you don't find anything wrong with that?
I mean, it's not for me to intrude on another family and tell them what they should do.
Wouldn't that be really dangerous for children?
I don't see how we know that. Like,
children are human beings. They're not property. What about their protection?
Oh, the law doesn't treat them as having the full rights of adults.
Nathan Larson also told me he doesn't think wives should be allowed to accuse their husbands of rape.
Have to, because we are living in very interesting times where they're pushing all kinds of crazy stuff. We're going to talk about pedophilia right now.
Yeah.
So recently there was a video that came out. It was actually in the news, but it was a TED Talk, and it was a girl talking about pedophilia, addressing pedophilia.
Yeah.
Because this whole sexual trends with sexual identity and transgender revolution and the LGBTEQ or whatever, Z,
right,
whatever it is now, they keep adding things. Now they are trying to bring pedophilia into the LGBT community.
Yeah.
And the TED Talk, basically this girl was saying, there's pedophilia and then there's sexual offenders. So you could be a pedophile, which is like, okay, you're okay. If you're a pedophile, it's okay. You're born this way. You're born this way. That means you like to have sex with children. It's okay. You're a pedophile.
That's what this girl is trying to convey.
That's what the girl's saying. You're a pedophile. Well, maybe you're born this way, and that's okay as long as you don't ever act out on it. So if you're a pedophile, you're okay. That's what she's trying to say. So it's only bad is if you act out on it. So being a pedophile, liking to have little kids, is okay in your mind and everything, but you just can't act out on it. So they want to include you into they want to include it into the LGBT community. Is that crazy? Like they're giving a green light. This is disgusting. This is like this is like the worst thing. This is like horrible to even be thinking about this. You know what I mean? So then I get a link from you this morning about the comedian. Remember his whole agenda?
Horrible.
So what was it? Let's kind of
basically
do the basic
this
version.
guy was he was basically breaking down that, like, you know, if you're a murderer, people have more, I'm going to paraphrase it, they have more grace on murderers than they do people that are pedophiles. Like, if you murdered somebody, you can actually be, okay, you know, and he's going through a tough time in his life, maybe he didn't have enough sleep, you know, and he's kind of like joking, he's a comedy, and this is something that should not be being joked around. There's so many people who have been impacted by this. But then he starts to give it as, okay, murders can be almost forgiven and people have grace on that, but if you are a pedophile, oh man, you're like wiped out. And so what his thing was like, he was hoping that they could take down the level of scrutiny against people that have the pedophile thing. That's what he was alluding to. And that is gnarly. The other stuff he said, I won't even repeat what he said. But that's basically the premise, and it's the same premise that you're talking about with that girl. And it's interesting that that video that we both saw, this video we both saw, all circulated this last week. And it's just surfacing. And we were talking about this earlier in the show. This is why you got to be careful. People want to normalize things. The way that girl is speaking, she talks very, very eloquent. She is saying that, you know, people are born this way, and we need to have compassion on them. They're not able to fulfill these desires. Imagine if you have desires for a wife, or you have desires for a husband if you're a woman, and you have those desires and you want to fulfill that. What if you weren't able to fulfill those desires? Like, okay, now they have these desires. Oh, and this is just how they were born. This is how they were created. They didn't choose this.
Born this way.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Look at our world today. Also, for the last few months, we have been seeing it in Hollywood. We've been seeing it in many different platforms. Actors, producers, people that are famous are being dimed out that they were molested by this particular person. And this pedophile ring, there's famous actors. Corey Feldman has been on a big thing talking about the reality of pedophiles that are out there. His good friend Corey Haim, who was a very famous actor growing up in the 80s, who got really heavily addicted into drug addiction, heroin addiction, and overdose, died at a young age. He kind of alluded to that the things that happened to him as a kid, he tried to drown out all of that stuff by his drug addiction. And make no doubt about it, being a pedophile is against the things of the Lord. It's nothing to play with. It is demonic. And whenever you deviate from what God has created, you will open yourself up for so much deception. We've heard people talk about it, Ryan. I've heard people years ago say, you know, it's just a matter of time when you start opening up the boundaries of sexual orientation from this gender now to this, now to this. It's going to just be anything goes, and there's not going to be any morality on any platform.
Jesus says this, if you want to mess with his children. He says, but if you cause one of my little children's who trust me to fall into sin, it would be better for you to have a large millstone tied around your neck and be drowned in the deepest part of the ocean. Basically what he's saying is, you know, if you cause one of them, if you lead them into a path of unrighteousness, or what's a better word, you know, into a life of not following God, or introduce them to gnarly stuff, it's better for you to cast a millstone around your neck and throw yourself in the deepest part of the ocean. So imagine trying to come at a kid and to sleep with a kid. Do not play with the children. God will not tolerate it. You may get away with it now, but God will not tolerate it. I mean, it's just crazy that we're even talking about this right now.
No, and
because like we're really having a conversation that this is actually trending.
Yeah. And there is an appetite for it out there. There's a crazy world out there that will eat this stuff up. That are, if you're into this stuff, and we cannot justify it. We got to pray for this nation because these things are going really, really quick. And I know my heart has been turning over the last couple months, and more so in these last couple weeks, because it seems like we're just being so much inundated with this stuff. And because of we've been saying about the social media and all that kind of stuff, man, there's so many good things that come from this communication, but also the enemy wants to take it and use it for destruction.
You know, what is that one quote? Evil prevails because good people do nothing.
Dude, I've heard that a lot as well too.
I love that. It's true. We have to do something. We need to educate our friends and family, our kids. We need to be there, available.
I would love something delicious.